Good morning students and welcome back to the class. Today I will explain you chapter 6 Charles and Lucy Mary of novel. But again let me remind you what is the name of this book? A Tale of Two Cities. A Tale of Two Cities, and who is the writer? Charles Dickens. That you have to remember because it will come in the question paper. Now let's start with the Charles and Lucy Mary. What is the full name of Charles? Charles Darnley and Lucy Manette. This is the full name of these two characters, and in this chapter we'll read about the marriage of Charles and Lucy. Let me write the meaning. One word is château. Already in the last chapter also we did it. It means country house. Second is exterminated. It means destroyed completely. Next is doomed. It means marked for certain death. Next one, another important word is petition, which is used in the court. Request. Next is crumb. Crumb is a very small quantity. Of something. Okay, next I will explain you later. So it was the midday when Defarge entered his cafe in Anton, and he was with his workman, the same person who had seen the man hanging onto the Marquis carriage, which you have read in the last chapter. Both he and Defarge, they were covered in the dust, and Madame Defarge, wife of Defarge, said, as usual, silent, she was busy in knitting behind the counter in the cafe shop. Good day, my wife. Defarge is saying to his wife that good day. I have come along with the distance with the workman called Jacques. His name was Jacques. They sat down on a table and had a meal in the cafe, and when they had finished, Defarge got up and turned to his guest and, are you ready? Shall I show you the room? They went out to the past dirty courtyard and to the tiled stairs upstairs to the filth store where Mr. Lorry and Lucy had found Dr. Manette 6 years ago. Who? Mr. Lorry and Miss Lucy, they had found Dr. Manette 6 years ago. But now, white-haired man, that Dr. Manette is not there. Only 3 men who had been in the cafe earlier, they met in the secrecy, and all taking the name of the common man, the revolutionary Jacques. They were talking about the Jacques, and Defarge made the introduction. This is Jacques 1. Let me show you the picture of the Jacques. It is given in the book also. Jacques 1, Jacques 2, Jacques 3, Jacques 4, Jacques 5, you can see. So he is talking about all these persons. Jacques 5 told them how the Marquis had run over the child under his carriage, and how his father, who was the father of that child, Gaspard, he had jumped onto the back of the carriage and he rode nearly all the way to the Marquis' house, and well, after the Marquis' death, they searched for the Gaspard for 9 months and until they caught him. And finally he was caught, and his face was bleeding when he could hardly walk. Then they put in the metal cage in the village. Some said he was not going to be executed. Some people said that his case had been put before the court. He should get the justice because all he did because his child was dead. In the madness because his child was dead. It was Jacques IV who has taken the risk to give the petition to the king. Jacques II and III nodded, and Jacques V said, okay, continue with your conversation. Others said he would have his right hand, and the hand that held the knife and cut off, then he would be killed. Well, it was done, said Defarge, and Gaspard was hanged by the neck and left there until he rotted, until his body rotted over there. There was a dark silence for a moment while the Jacques considered an ugly death of the Gaspard. Then the Marquis family and his race will die. Every last one of them will be killed and exterminated. Exterminated means they will be destroyed completely. That same day, Defarge was presenting his papers to the authority in order to enter the central district of the Paris. And he had some private words with the policeman. He was his old friend. And the policeman told him about the spy who had been sent to Saint Antonio to find out what was happening there. The authorities were very nervous about the rumored anger against the king and government there, and wanted to put down any unrest before it got out of control. Defarge later gave a full description of the spy to his wife. This person is going to visit our cafe, and this is the features. Who is that person? That person was John Bursard. Let me show you. That person, spy, was John Bursard. His age was 40 years, height 5 foot 9 inch, hair was black, skin dark, nose and face long, eyes closed. So these are the features which Defarge told to his wife about the spy. Later that day, when Therese Defarge was on her own cafe, Bursard entered, sat down, he ordered something to drink, but Madame Defarge was watching because already her husband has informed his spy will come. Bursard sat watching Madame Defarge knitting violently, and then he told that John Bursard told to, your business is bad, I think. Madame Defarge did not lift her hand, and still she was busy in knitting work, and again he said, people are poor, are miserable people, oppressed as you say. Pardon me, yes it was I, but you think it is no doubt. I do not think my husband and I too are busy to think about all these things, people are poor, they are miserable, we don't care about them. The people of Saint Anton are in the arms about the death of the poor Gaspard. People are in anger because of the death of that poor person Gaspard, whose child was run under the Marquis Carrez. Then you mistake, then he says to, when Mr. Defarge comes to the cafe, and John Bursard says, good day Jacques, you mistake me for another monsieur, that is not my name. He said, my name is Ernest Defarge, not Jacques. It is all the same, good day. I was saying to Madam when you entered that they all tell me there is much sympathy and anger in the Saint Anton because of the unhappy fate of the poor Gaspard. He also said the same, I don't know nothing about the people, and passed behind the counter, but Bursard was determined to collect crumbs. Crumbs means small, very small quantity, means small piece of information he want to collect, as he was a spy. Then he said, now that I have met you, Mr. Defarge, I recall that I have met Dr. Manette, his daughter Lucy, in England, and I have heard how you helped them get over there. That is so, said Defarge, putting her glass on. He agreed. You don't hear much about them now. Madame Defarge struck in again, busy in her work. Actually, she never hear about them. We received the news of their safe arrival, that was all. The daughter is going to marry? Going to? She was pretty enough to marry years ago. You are English, so cold. Oh, you know I am English? Your accent betrays you, monsieur. Now, Madame Defarge is saying to John Bassett, from your accent we come to know you are English. Then yes, Miss Manette is going to marry Marcus' nephew, Charles Darnay. This person is going to marry Lucy Mary. Madame Defarge knitted steadily, and each stitched another name in the long list of the doomed. Doomed means, already I told you, the marked for certain death. There is a name for the marked for the certain death. But the news struck her husband. However, had he tried to hide it, he was troubled and his hands were trembling. The spy noticed, of course, having made this one and his bill and bid the honors, and from there he said bye to both Madame Defarge and Mr. Defarge, and he went away. When Bassard had left, Defarge turned to his wife. I hope this Charles Darnay does not come back to France. Madame Defarge made another violent nod in the knitting, and what will be if the doctor's daughter is to be widow, so to be. If this person dies, she will become the widow then. In London, Lucy had decided to spend evening before her wedding to Charles Darnay with her father. She had decided to spend some time along with Charles and her father. Are you happy, my dear father? Quite, my child. But Lucy could not tell her father was concerned. Father, you know that if I had not fallen in love with the Charles, then all the time, whole life I would have stayed with you. Then he said, if it were not Charles, it would be someone else. Then somebody else you must have married. Father, tell me the last time that you do not mind. I would not want you to give up for the sake of my love. Lucy held her father's hand and looked up into the night sky, and where the moon was shining brightly. So it was the first time her father talked about his present day, and she came too close to him and kissed him on the cheek. So it was the bright sunny day, and Mr. Lorry and Miss Prose waited in the little house Soho where both of they were staying, Lucy and Dr. Manette. When Lucy entered the room, Mr. Lorry looked at the bride admiringly. And so, my sweet Lucy, it was all that I thought you across the channel from the France. Lord bless me, Miss Prose, there is no need to cry. I am not crying, you say. Miss Prose, wiping away a tear, because she loves very much Lucy. Now, when the bride and groom had left for their honeymoon to Scotland, now Dr. Manette was left at home, and he was in deep depression. And again he went to his room, and he used to do work with the old tools which he used in the prison. When Mr. Lorry and Prose, they thought he is in depression, Dr. Manette is in depression because of these tools. Why not we should throw it away, these tools, or we should hide away, so that he should come out of his depression, as Lucy and Dr. Charles Darnay is also not here. And what they did, once evening Mr. Lorry tried to get him out to go for a walk with him, and will you come back with me? And yes, for a walk, but doctor didn't seem to understand. After a 9 days of his disturbing behavior, Dr. Manette was thinner. Again he was becoming weak day by day. He was thinking, he has gone into depression. Mr. Lorry was exhausted, and he knew that he had to do something. And what they did, he had to do something quickly before Lucy and Charles returned from their honeymoon, and he sat in the armchair next to the doctor and touched his arm gently. Dr. Manette, I need your advice. Now, how he talked to Dr. Manette, Mr. Lorry. It is about a very dear friend of mine, and for the sake of his daughter, I am asking your advice. The doctor stopped working for the first time in the 9 days. He come out, he listened very carefully to Mr. Lorry, and he came out of the depression Now go on, it is a case of old shock. The dear friend concerned seemed to improve and relapses. This last time has been particularly troubling. And slowly the doctor came out of the depression. Then 9 days and night. And how does this illness show itself in an old occupation to which relapses something distress him? A look of anxiety appeared on the doctor's face. You spoke of his daughter. Does she know of his relapse? No, it has been kept from her. Now, doctor took interest in the conversation of this Mr. Lorry. The doctor took Mr. Lorry's hand. That was kind of you, very thoughtful. I am concerned about the future. Dr. Manette, I don't know what to do. I am simply a man of business. So I am asking your advice. Now, doctor is taking the advice of the Mr. Lorry. The doctor finally put down the shoe, the work which he was doing, and I shall offer it willingly. He had returned to the sensible state, his physician concerned for a patient and re-emerged, and for his daughter's sake, you see. Then both of them, Mr. Lorry and Prose, thought we should send Dr. Manette to the Scotland, where Lucy and her husband Charles has gone. And they did like this. So for the Mr. Lorry that night relieved and happy than he had been for some time, and for the next 3 days Dr. Manette was perfectly well, and so finally doctor also agreed to their advice and he went to the Scotland. On the night of the day he left, Mr. Lorry took a saw. Then after when he went to Scotland, they took saw, other tools, axe, Miss Prose holding a candle to the light work, and they went to the doctor's room, and just like the two thieves in a night, and they destroyed the shoemaker's bench on where he used to work. They buried the tools in a hole at the bottom of the garden so that he should not again use those tools. When the young couple returned from their honeymoon, so had the Sidney Carton returned from his last visit to Paris as ragged and untidy, and he is talking to the Charles, but Charles saying, I hope we might be friends. Charles looked at him with surprise, but we are already friends, I hope. Then, I hope you can forget about me. I know I am a useless dog. Now, Sidney Carton is saying these words to Charles Darnley, but he is saying, okay. Then, you must take my word for it, but I should like to be regarded as friend, to be able to come here and to a part of your finish. I want to become a part of your family. It would give me great pleasure. Charles took Carton's hand and smiled politely. You are always welcome here and I will be your friend. Carton seemed pleased by Darnley's courtesy and they shook hands and he left. When he had gone, Charles and the other of his conversation with the Carton, but he spoke of him that contradicted the kindness he had shown him only few minutes before. Lucy was very upset. Why you are talking with Carton like this? He's a good friend. Lucy placed her hand gently on his chest and hesitated before speaking. I think, Charles, that you spoke ill of the Mr. Carton tonight. That is not good. Then for this, Charles said sorry to Miss Lucy. I will never do this again. And oh my dearest, remember how strong we are in happiness because we have each other. How weak we are if we are in the misery and loneliness. So Charles held Lucy tightly to him, and I will remember it as long as I live. Thanks.